In my heart, I'm gonna sing till the spirit.
And that's the cases they know of. And this problem is exacerbated by the high rate of incarceration amongst black men because of the sexual dealings, or some of the sexual dealings within prisons amongst men. AIDS and HIV is spread. Then they come out spreading HIV to women. Okay? You have that. That's also exacerbating the problem. Okay, so it says the AIDS case rate for black men, 95.1 was the highest of any group, followed by black women, 45.5. By comparison, the rate among white men was 12.1. And they are the majority population. Okay, but let's look at some other things, because I want to look at women and young people. Okay? It says, black women account for the far majority of new AIDS cases among women. 66% of the new AIDS cases in 2005. It's time to wake up. White and Latino women each account for 16% of new AIDS cases. Black women represented more than a third. 35% of AIDS cases diagnosed among blacks. Black men and women combined in 2005. By comparison, white women represented 15% of AIDS cases diagnosed among whites. Now let's look at our young people. Because our young people, again, our people are in a mess. They are in a mess. It says, although black teens, aged 13 to 19, represent only 16% of U.S. teenagers, they accounted for 69% of new AIDS cases reported among teens in 2005. A similar impact can be seen among black children. Okay? And you also have, I wanted to mention, you also have drugs exacerbating the problem as well. But with our children, what you see is no standard being set. See, it's just a cycle. I mean, you have all these women and all these men. Well, these men are sleeping with all these women. Okay? Sleeping around, having babies outside of wedlock. Then on top of that, you have the spreading of disease. Okay? And on top of that, what do you have in the households? You have households in which women are raising children. And therefore, there's no discipline. There's no, in many of these homes, there's no discipline or a lack of discipline. Okay, the whole family structure is warped. It's all out of order. Therefore, you can't have any peace within the community. Okay, and in one area in particular, you have our young teen girls who are looking for love, don't have a father there, so they look for it wherever they can get it. And you have these boys, young men, well, I call them boys because they don't know about, many of them don't know about true manhood, but they are physically capable. They are mature in a sexual way. They sleep with all these girls. They sleep with them. And the girls looking at that as if that's love. And what are they doing? All this promiscuity, all this fornication is leading to more diseases. On top of teenage pregnancies. Okay? On top of the issues of depression and low self-esteem. Okay? On top of just being outside of God's order. Alright, let's read something else about teens. Okay? This is an old abstract. It says prevalence of sexually transmitted infections and bacterial vaginosis among female adolescents in the United States. Data from the National Health and Nutritional Examination Survey 2003 through 2004. Now first off, it says 1 in 4 female adolescents is infected with at least one sexually transmitted infection. This is from the Center for Disease Control. Okay, it says a new CDC study indicates that 1 in 4, 26% female adolescents in the United States has at least one of the most common sexually transmitted infections, or STIs. Okay, so again, it's not just our blacks or the so-called African American, but it's all over. It's teens in general. Okay, having sex, and again, there's no standard being set. There's no standard being set. But let's look at us, at our condition, at our predicament. It says by race, African American teenage girls had the highest prevalence with an overall STI prevalence of 48% compared to 20% among both whites and Mexican Americans. It says other Hispanics and race ethnic populations were captured in the survey, but they were insufficient numbers. See, their numbers were too small in any one group to permit valid prevalence estimates for any group except Mexican Americans. Okay? But African American teens, teenage girls, practically almost 50%, 48 it said, almost 50%, almost half, have at least one STD. At least one STD. See, we need to get back to the book, brothers and sisters, because we've abandoned the book, we've gone our own way, and we are gone astray, and we are going down the road of degradation. There is no excuse. If you had men of God truly preaching the word of God, this would be addressed. But what do you have in our churches? How is it that we have all these churches packed with people and no standard being set? Because as I did in a recent lesson, we have a bunch of false prophets. People that don't care about, people that stand up there in the position that don't care about the sheep. They don't care about the pasture. They could care less about you. If they cared about you, they would teach you what thus saith the Lord. These are the consequences. And don't think it can't happen to you. That's 1 in 2. That's 1 in 2 that have at least one sexually transmitted infection. Okay? So, on top of this, fornication. What do you have? You have all these infections, all these diseases running rampant amongst our people. And in addition, you have teenage pregnancy. And pregnancy in general among our women, and many of them are getting abortions. Okay? Now some may say, well, you need abortions because what about in cases of rape, cases of molestation in which incest has taken place? Let's find out the prevalence of that and see why women in general are getting abortions. Okay? Because that's running rampant amongst our people. And I'm going to get into that. But I want to first establish the reasons why women have abortions. This is called Reasons U.S. Women Have Abortions, Quantitative and Qualitative Perspectives. Perspectives on Sexual and Reproductive Health, 2005. Okay? Now it says, I'm going to just skip down because they give many reasons. It says, percentage of women reporting that specific reasons contributed to their decision to have an abortion. Okay? So, in 2004, it said having a baby would dramatically change my life. 74%. Okay? So they had, I can't afford a baby and child care. 28%. Okay? So, let's go down. Victims of rape. Okay? 1%. Only 1%. See, that's often. See, advocates for who are pro-choice, okay, advocates for abortion, they say it's an issue of privacy when it's actually murder. But they say that, hey, what about in the cases of rape? Well, that's 1%. Many women are not getting abortions because of rape. All right, and also became pregnant as a result of incest. Less than 0.5%. See, that's not the reason why they're getting these abortions. Women are getting abortions for their own selfish reasons. That might sound harsh, but that's the reality. And even if one was raped, as wicked and terrible as that is, you compound that act with murder. Murder doesn't make it any better. Murder does not make that any better. As terrible and as bad as that is, murder doesn't make it any better. Okay? So you see many of our African American women having these abortions. Okay? They can't afford a baby. Well, if you had done things in a proper order, and that goes to the man too, because it's his fault. Both of them are equally at fault. If you do things in a proper order, you will be in a position to take care of that child. See, it's all a cycle of just madness. If you go outside of God's order, that's what you will have. Problems, consequences and repercussions. Okay, so let's go here. Because as I stated, abortion is quite prevalent amongst our people. Okay? Let's look at this. And I want to mention the population. According to the U.S. Census, we're approximately 40 million. Okay? Now this is from Center for Disease Control. Surveillance summaries, November 27, 2009, abortion surveillance in the United States. It says among women from the 39 areas for which race was reported for 2006, white women, including both Hispanic and non-Hispanic white women, accounted for the largest percentage, 55.8. So they put white women and Hispanic women together. Non-Hispanic white women together. Hispanic and non-Hispanic white women. And it says, black women accounted for 36.4% of abortions. Okay? Now if you look at the numbers, this is approximately since 1973, in which Roe versus Wade, we've had approximately about 13 million abortions. Okay? And there has been a program in this country to get rid of the African American. Okay? They bred us during the times of slavery because, hey, it brought forth wealth. At the end of slavery, they had a Negro dilemma that they had to deal with. How do we deal with this Negro? Okay? And eugenics came about. And then you saw in many of our neighborhoods who were impoverished because of discrimination and segregation, birth control was introduced. Okay? And it wasn't just introduced, they got many of our leaders on board. Because many of our people looked at it as a way to get out of poverty. But what you must understand is that you can be poor and righteous. And if you stick to what God says, if you stick to what His Word says, He will bless you. But if you don't, He will curse you. And that's how we ended up in slavery in the first place. We were cursed for disobedience. So we went after the propaganda, after the lies that were told, but in essence, that whole program was to cut down on the African American population, and it has worked to a T. Because we have been killed more by abortion than cancer, HIV, AIDS, heart disease, violence. It is abortion that kills us. They are getting rid of generations of us through abortion. Millions have died. And that's murder. You can say it's just tissue all you want to. That's a life. That's a life. And you take that life. You commit murder when you commit abortion. When you have an abortion, you commit murder. Let's go to Ezekiel. Because this is all a part of the creation of God. We are all a part of that creation. And let's find out who we belong to. This is Ezekiel, the 18th chapter, and I want to read this one verse. It reads as follows. This is the Lord talking. He says, behold, all souls are mine. Okay? As the soul of the Father, so also the soul of the Son is mine. The soul that sinneth, it shall die. Okay? He's talking about that second death. Okay? And the wage of sin is death. But he says souls belong to Him. So who are you to kill a soul if they belong to God? You don't even know who you're killing when you kill your child. You don't even know who it is or who they could be and what potential they might have. But because you go outside of God's order, because you may have your own reasons for doing it, that's not even important. Because he or she in the womb does not belong to you. And for African Americans, it's unfortunate the womb is the one place that's supposed to provide safety for that which grows inside of it. That life that grows inside of it, that's the most dangerous place for an African American. The womb. Okay, let's go to Jeremiah. Let's read what is written here. This is Jeremiah, the 1st chapter, and the 1st verse.